Welcome everyone to Bringing Diverse Perspective into Scholarly Marketing, a presentation in the 2020 Professional Development Series hosted on SSP's on-demand library. My name is Kasia Repeta and I'm the Digital Marketing Coordinator at Duke University Press, as well as a member of SSP's Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee. With the ongoing issues like climate change, COVID-19 health crisis, and the spread of racism and xenophobia, there has never been a greater need for action. Today's webinar is aimed to inform on approaches for sifting through research content, partnership opportunities, and technology solutions, as well as ways for confronting uncertainty with urgency and innovation. The presenters will provide a set of ideas and calls to action to draw attention to what can be done if we all embrace this important time in history and contribute to solving some of the most pressing issues. Our presenters today are Dean Smith, Shan Harris, and Colleen Collins. Dean Smith is the director of Duke University Press. His career in publishing spans more than 30 years and includes experience in scholarly, STM, university press, trade and association-based publishing. His career has evolved with the profession in a variety of roles, including as press director, director of digital platform and electronic publishing, vice president of sales and marketing, and society publisher. He's a published author, poet, and a freelance journalist. The main focus on Dean's talk today is going to be about embracing chaos with urgency and innovation. He will also talk about how to drive change and foster agility within an established culture. Our second presenter, Shan Harris, is a communication specialist at INASP, an international development organization that supports the production, sharing, and use of research in more than 25 countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. In addition to her main job of looking after publications and media relationships, she's also a mentor with INASP's Author Aid project and a member of the Think, Check, Submit committee. In today's presentation, Shan will explain how publishers can work with the Author Aid project to provide more tailored support to authors. Our third speaker today, Colleen Collins, is a marketing consultant, coach, and a speaker. She leads Clark's and Esposito's marketing digital transformation practice. Prior to consulting, Colleen was the Chief Marketing Officer of Oxford University Press's academic division. She loves to advise on the strategic and operational aspects of marketing and is passionate about driving business transformation through a data-driven, technology-enabled, and customer-focused modern marketing approach. In today's presentation, Colleen will be discussing the role of marketing technology in transforming the marketing function. She will hone in on the importance of listening to customers as scholarly publishers navigate global change initiatives and how marketing technology can help. I will now turn the presentation over to our first presenter, Dean Smith.
Thank you, Kasia, and thank you, SSP, for giving me this opportunity to share the experiences of Duke University Press. I've just finished my 1-year anniversary in June of being at Duke, and it's been a tremendous experience. I want everyone also to stay safe and healthy out there during this unprecedented time. Next slide, please. So a little bit about Duke University Press. We're like every other university press, we're old. Our 100th anniversary will happen in 2026. We're a Group 4 university press, which means we have revenues, book revenues in excess of $6 million. We're a leading scholarly publisher of humanities, social sciences, and mathematics content. with a focus on Black studies, Indigenous studies, and marginalized perspectives. Duke University Press is ripe for experimentation and innovation. And when you're talking about embracing chaos, these are very important attributes to have. My career has always been about, at least since the early 90s, embracing chaos in some form or another. And I included this balloon here to show you that we generate about $16 million, and it costs about $16 million to do that. So again, we're mission-based, not-for-profit publisher. Melissa Pitts, the director of the University of British Columbia Press, told me last year in Frankfurt that DUP, Duke University Press, is the cultural studies ambassador to the world. Next slide. So some of the attributes of Duke University Press are really key success drivers. Is that the staff is really passionate and dedicated. They believe in each other. They believe in the mission of the press. They do believe that the books we publish have the capacity to change the world. Our authors are the rising stars in their field, and we've developed that ethos since the early 90s. There's deep engagement with the intellectual community we provide services to. We have lots of systems. We're optimized for introducing new products. All of the managers and directors are well versed in how to put together budgets and are very cost conscious and great stewards of the resources and of the brand and the high quality. Quality is actually one of the top key core values that we have, and we're engaged every day in driving discovery, driving impact. We have a global licensing and sales team to really engage customers all around the world. Next slide, please. And so this is I like this this graphic because it kind of really describes basically every position I've been in publishing, where you have on one side the mission-driven aspects of the organization and then the revenue-generating aspects. And oftentimes these are in conflict, and this tension really creates a sense of urgency within an organization. Like I can just tell you, yesterday I was asked to about student interns, our student intern program, which really is a mission-based initiative for us, where we're providing the students with the ability to learn about publishing, to learn about the profession. They may be in the humanities or in the social sciences and they're beginning their careers. It's important for them to learn about publishing. On the other side of that, in a pandemic, when the university's budgets are constrained, when all of the budgets are constrained, do we want to continue that investment? And my feeling is yes, until there's something else that changes. We have to, especially in these times, be concerned about mission-based initiatives and continuing to be who we are. There's a certain altruism that arises out of these situations. But every day this comes into play, mission versus margin, and every decision I make on a book-by-book or journal-by-journal basis. And we must really kind of recognize that a balance has to be achieved. Next slide. This, the goal that I'm presenting here, I presented after we did a reorganization in January, and I was thinking it definitely applies to what followed after, which was chaotic and nonlinear, but we really need to be able to meet disruptions as opportunities rather than crises. And in any of these situations, it is time for innovation. It is time to think about what the opportunities might be to change your business. And I was looking at that presentation yesterday and thought this was very, in some ways, prophetic as to what was to follow. Yeah, so it really did start with a series of events that I wasn't fully aware where they were going to lead, and in a way, innovation in that way has always been the most rewarding, where you kind of are open to the possibilities of what can happen. And when you go back to those key success drivers, you have a staff at Duke University Press that can really take something and make it so much more amazing than the initial idea. So Priscilla Wald, she's an editorial advisory board member. She's one of our authors. She cares deeply about the press. She edits a journal. She published a book in 2008 called Contagious, where she defined the term the outbreak narrative related to SARS at the time, and published an op-ed and just sent me an email and a couple of others at the press saying I published this op-ed, and what that meant was that her book was going to have a second life, and could we do some publicity. And when you publish in university press books, you're really happy to see something that can reinvigorate your backlist titles. And so from that point, we made Contagious. As things started to happen, we made Contagious open access. Kasha and her colleagues developed the pandemic syllabus, where they took Contagious and some other books and journal articles and created this resource, this open access resource. And this grew out of a project that they'd already started last fall. Serendipitously, we had a spring sale plan for March 10th, which was the day that Amazon suspended the ordering of books in favor of medical supplies. And you know, for several weeks, there were no Amazon orders. And for a university press, 30 to 40% of your business depends on Amazon at this point. So that was something that, to have that sale going, you just sort of thought back to that slide with, you know, in terms of the staff, and they were right on it all the time. On March 12th, the university asked that we close our warehouse for safety concerns. So that then made it really difficult to even sell any books. So we were faced with the challenge of, how do you sell books in a pandemic without a warehouse? And on March 13th, we moved fully to remote status. So we became a virtual publisher in basically a couple of days for 120 staff members, which was amazing to watch. And in the next 2 weeks, we moved our entire production supply chain and publishing supply chain into print-on-demand status, so that we were able to, through Lightning Source, begin selling books through print-on-demand. And you see the numbers there, which was really phenomenal. But this is something that the staff had talked about doing for 6 years. Print-on-demand was, the production folks were ready to do this 6 years ago. They spent a lot of time researching it and how it was going to be done. But we probably had 12 people on this project. In about 10 to 15 days, they made it happen, working closely with Ingram Publishing Services and with Lightning Source. And going back to Priscilla Wald, she also said in February, on February 20th, economics should not be the first concern when thinking about healthcare. The cost in human lives should be. And again, that's kind of a, that was a really astute observation at that time. Next slide. So a little bit about the syllabi project. I remember one of my first meetings with journalist marketing. We were looking at these syllabuses that they were creating. They would go to, there would be paper versions at conferences to kind of provide almost on the spot course, materials for a course, and that, folks coming to conferences could pick them up and look at them. And, then there was also an online sort of microsite presence for these things. And once we put Contagious OA, created the pandemic syllabus, several others followed. Now, there were already others that they'd created, and so they rolled some of those in too. So this is really an amazing kind of team effort on the part of the journal's marketing and books marketing team to kind of come together and create this unique product. I even thought there was a way to publish journals and books out of these, or different types of publications out of these, but they've got, up until now, they've gotten a lot of coverage. People have been using them. They've been posted on university department websites, and they've been used readily and highly. In the marketing of them, there's a 40% open rate. This is what you do during the crisis moment. You provide as much free content and resources to people as you can, so they can better understand what's happening. And it's also helped drive the usage of our other products and to keep the cost per use down for our libraries. So what has happened since March? The spring sale broke all previous sale records. One of the key things there is that most of the orders went through our website, which gives us now this idea that we need to drive more business through that sales channel. We had to reopen the warehouse because it was impossible to release books, and releasing books is really important. Most, especially monograph sales, happen in the first 6 to 12 months. So not being able to do that really hindered our abilities to provide service to the academics, and that's one of the big things the university presses do. We're a credentialing body. We provide, ways for scholars and academics to be published. It was amazing to see some of the books resonate in the moment. That showed, when we go back to that slide about what we publish, how those books became part of the national discussion. And interestingly, we have a really good way of getting at our community, and the networks that we've created, that our editors have created, one of them over the last 30 years, has developed this very large Twitter following. And so that's a place where we go and engage with authors and do things on there, and that really helped the sale. The Syllabi Resource Center, the Pandemic Resource Center, generated 17,000 views. And Contagious, going back to that book, that backlist book that we published in 2008, tripled its print sales into January, and it's had 14,000 views of the OA version. We generated a surplus in fiscal year 20 that ended June 30th, which was nothing short of miraculous. And the great thing is it was the staff. I had little to do with it. And that's the way when it works best, is when you have a talented staff that can really take any idea and drive it home. Our ebook sales this year were the highest in the history of the press. And just pointing out one of the titles down there that has gotten national attention, Necropolitics by Achille Mbembe, which necropolitics is when a government decides who lives and dies. And that book has become a monthly bestseller for the last several months. And the term necropolitics is being used. Jamel Bowie used it in the New York Times op-ed, as well as Joy Reid on MSNBC. And that was really the first time that I'd ever heard necropolitics enter the lexicon. So this is something too, when you think about university presses, that we do, that kind of goes, it's not necessarily on the top of mind, but this is something that we're there to do, and that is to make the world a better place. So what's going to happen in the days ahead? I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but some of the things we're hearing is that there could be more supply chain issues going into the fall. Libraries we're hearing, are focused on digital resources only with reduced budgets. We have embraced chaos through innovation by looking at what other presses might need, especially journal publishers. And since we have a number of resources at Duke University Press to be able to handle that, 2 digital platforms, really veteran employees who know the journal publishing business, we're starting to look at those opportunities. Our marketing department is moving towards virtual marketing events. We're really focused on leveraging our distribution channels, like the website. If we can control, how does that work? Well, we want to contact professors in the fall to find out, do you need a code for your students to come and order these books? Because we're not fully certain that the bookstores on campus, given the cash flow issues facing universities, will be able to handle these orders. So that's another thing that we learned through the sale that we're applying. We have 120 employees in a very large office in downtown Durham, and we're looking to reduce that physical footprint, given the amount, especially during this time, but maybe into the future as well. And we've looked at opportunities. I'll just focus on one. We will be publishing the journal Demography. It was published by a commercial publisher, and in that bidding process, we decided not to go to that subscription route. We would never be able to fulfill the obligations, the revenue obligations. So we took that mission side and just said, we're going to publish this OA from the beginning, because Demography publishes articles about population statistics, about census information, about global health. We, as an organization, don't believe that should be something that we would charge for, that people need to know that information. And that's something that was driven by the pandemic in terms of that thinking. So looking at inside, what's happening internally to our culture. So you had the shootings of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and how did that affect staff who were remote, who were already dealing with a number of issues, related to remote work, dealing with children, dealing with family? How are you balancing all of this? And so we went right at addressing that situation. And fortunately, we have an equity and inclusion task force that has been in existence for 4 years. And the folks involved with that have been doing really dynamic things related to these issues. We're doing anti-racism training for staff. We're offering that to staff. All supervisors will be required to have that training in this fiscal year. Also, we're committing to bystander training, and we're collectively looking at ways to increase the staff, increase the numbers of staff of people of color. We're committing to that, and that means larger employment pools for new positions and other types of things. But we are focused on these issues, and it's really interesting to think about an organization that has equity and inclusion as its core value and what you can accomplish. I think about trust, and trust doesn't come about unless you're transparent and inclusive. And so that's something that's guiding us. And just a shout out here to 3 people who've been instrumental in my own personal journey in learning about these issues: Jocelyn Dawson, Gisela Fasado, and Kathy Reimer-Searles. So in closing, you hear a lot about university presses, and I'm really pleased to be at Duke University Press. You hear a lot about, well, some of them won't survive. We're all going to survive, because peer-reviewed knowledge in the era of fake news has to be one of the most important things the society needs. A must-have thing. How important is peer-reviewed knowledge right at this moment? We're learning institutions, just like the English department, just like the sociology department. And trust me, we'll be publishing scholars and humanists like Priscilla Wald on the utter collapse of this system and the situation in this moment for the next 100 years. So when folks move towards science and technology and all of those things, you really can't, discount the humanities to be able to look at this moment and look at what's going on from that perspective. And we also can be laboratories for social justice and change. We need to be able to walk the walk and internally as an organization carry the same message as the books that we publish and the journals that we publish. Also, remaining open to the possibilities of chaos, because chaos will produce opportunities. And in fact, I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. So we're just getting warmed up here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dean. I'm personally very proud to be part of Duke University Press, so thank you so much for this presentation. Now we turn to Shan for her presentation.
Yes? Thank you very much for the introduction. As Cassia said, I work for INASP, which is an international development organization based in the UK. We have been working with partners across Africa, South Asia, and Latin America for nearly 30 years, with a vision of research and knowledge at the heart of development. So as such, we work with and speak regularly with a range of actors across the research and knowledge systems in low and middle income countries. So that includes researchers, journal editors, teachers in higher education, librarians, policymakers. Our overall goal, and this is underpinning our new strategy, which launched a couple of months ago, is towards more equitable knowledge ecosystems. That means more equitable globally. That's, for example, reduced imbalances between what we sometimes call the global south and the global north, and more equitable between different groups of people and the different circumstances they can be in. And that is within countries and also across countries. So our overall vision is for an equitable knowledge ecosystem where men and women have equal access to skills, knowledge, and careers in research, policy, or practice, where all academic and policy organizations have equal access to resources and knowledge, and create conditions for staff to produce and use knowledge, where all forms of knowledge are considered equally important, where mechanisms exist for all stakeholders to collaborate to find evidence-based solutions to problems. So why does this matter? Currently, many researchers, policymakers, and practitioners are missing out. Their voices are not heard, their talent is wasted, and research which could be useful is not used. I like this picture from a recent participant of one of our author aid courses. It reminds us that research can save lives. From our personal experience, it's an interesting experience launching a strategy during a pandemic, but it's also shown how very relevant these many issues that we talk about are. Particularly the current situation we find ourselves in globally highlights this still further. In particular, the importance of learning from parts of the world with recent and deeply relevant experience and knowledge of dealing with disease outbreaks. Before I talk about some of the recommendations for publishers in high-income countries and some of what we're doing, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of some of the inequities we see today. Identifying these kind of inequities is vital for ensuring greater diversity and inclusion in the future. So when it comes to inequity in research, there are two broad levels. So this first slide talks about some that are at a global level. By global, I mean differences at a country or even a continent level. Perhaps one of the most familiar to many people listening to this call is about access to scholarly information. There are huge differences between countries in terms of capacity to pay for content. This, of course, feeds into discussions about open access and also into engagement with access initiatives. But providing access is only part of the picture of global inequality in research. Researchers are not just readers, but also authors, reviewers, editors. It's not enough to simply have access to the research other people have done. And here, actually, open access can bring a disadvantage. Some journals can charge very high prices for article processing charges. And although many publishers offer full or partial waivers for researchers from low and middle income countries, research we've done at INASP suggests that many authors are still paying for their APCs, often out of their own pockets. It's not clear whether this is because they are ineligible for waivers or unaware of the possibility of them. And cost is far from the only barrier. In a setting where English language is so dominant, there are inevitable biases against people with less than perfect English. And this also extends to those with lower knowledge of how to structure and write a research paper. And those kind of inequalities and differences also filter into situations such as peer review. I've got a couple of quotes here. These are some perspectives from researchers that we've spoken to as part of our author aid network about their experiences of peer review. There's quite a lot to read on this slide, but I think I'm particularly struck by the experiences where people say that when reviewers evaluate manuscripts, they sometimes give comments which aren't relevant to the research being done. If they're less familiar, if the research priority doesn't align with the research priorities in the countries that the reviewers are in, they can see a paper as less relevant or less interesting for a journal, aside from all the issues about language that can get in the way of seeing good science or good research of any sort. And it's also noticeable that when people have discussions like this about scholarly publishing, often inadvertently we end up having pictures in our mind of typical publishers that will likely be based in somewhere like North America or Western Europe. But it's not actually an accurate representation of the global picture of scholarly publishing. Thousands of journals are published in the developing world, but many are not widely known, even in their own countries or beyond. And as we talk about marketing and as we talk about opportunities for large publishers, it's important to recognize that the larger sizes and larger budgets of large publishers, and that includes the larger marketing budgets, don't result in smaller southern journals and their talented and dedicated editorial teams getting overlooked or excluded from conversations about the future of scholarly publishing and of their research areas. So beyond these global inequities, I'd like to share some more local issues. And these are the kind of things that are at a national level, or they can actually span across countries too. So one key issue is research funding and priorities. In the last talk, there was talk about sciences and humanities, and we often see that there are national level research priorities or institutional research priorities for research funding, and this can introduce biases and inequities into the system. We also see within the countries that we work with in INASP that you can get gaps between capital cities versus the rest of a country. So the large major well-known university in a capital city may attract a lot of foreign research funding and a lot of collaboration, and a smaller rural university may get overlooked and may be disadvantaged compared with the ones in the capital cities. We also see inequities resulting from educational background. A clear thing that can happen is when somebody has studied abroad or studied in a high profile institution with lots of research connections, that can give them greater access to networks to further their research careers. And of course, there are many issues worldwide related to gender and other inclusion issues, for example, disability. This was a bit of a whistle-stop tour of inequities, and there are of course very much more to say about all these issues and about the interplay between them. We do quite a lot of research with our partners and discussions with people we work with to explore these kind of issues. So please get in touch if you'd like to discuss any of these issues further. But in terms of the kind of things that we're discussing in this webinar, with so many different factors and much deeper nuance than I can cover here, it's inevitable that helping to bridge the gap between research and impact, especially in a way that reduces inequities in the global scholarly system, is not simple and it's not quick. Although the overall theme of this webinar is about marketing, we also can't think about the journal or publisher marketing in isolation from the wider activities of the publisher. There is little point in trying to attract a more diverse range of authors if the editorial and review systems aren't set up to support, for example, non-native English speakers, or to avoid unconscious biases against unfamiliar names or institutions in the review process, or if publication or access fees are a barrier to inclusion. Therefore, the majority of my recommendations here are about the whole publisher advice, but I hope that they provide some insights also into what can be done from a marketing perspective, along with the context of this webinar. So here are a few things on this slide that publishers might want to consider when publicizing content and when engaging with authors, potential reviewers, potential editors, with the aim of reducing biases against researchers from low and middle income countries. So my first point is think about what counts as research for an inclusion in an academic journal to ensure that research impact is relevant worldwide. By this, I mean Are you inadvertently aligned with research priorities of a Northern audience? For example, in terms of which diseases are covered most in a journal or which crop types are focused on. Secondly, think about the geographical diversity of your authorship, reviewer base, and editorial board. You have geographical diversity. Is this at more than a continent level? And more deeply, who are those representatives from different countries? Are they from the biggest universities in the capital cities? Are they mainly men? And the final point, these things to think about, is in terms of thinking about lower and middle income authors' context. That's not just the authors, but also editors, reviewers as well. What gaps might there be in their knowledge about publishing processes? What extra support might be needed, for example, for non-native English speakers? What additional challenges might authors face as a result of inequities from gender, disability, or where they are based? What impact do they look for from their research? What are the best ways to connect with them? And are these the same ways that you connect with authors in the US, for example? Why or why not? One of the things that we notice when we talk with researchers is that Facebook, for example, is more popular than Twitter, or has been certainly in the past as a way to engage with the researchers that we work with. And bandwidth as well. So if you want to make nice marketing videos, what kind of bandwidth will they use for people who want to access them? Are there ways that you can stop them automatically playing? There are incredible differences around the world in terms of cost for data, and watching a video that we might not think twice about in some countries can cost an absolute fortune to somebody in another country because of the disparities in costs. So these are all things to think about in terms of engaging. I'd like to share something that we're doing, one project that we're doing at INASP, and this is our AuthorAid project, which may be familiar to some people in the audience. The AuthorAid project from INASP is working to help bridge the gap between research and impact, as well as some of the other gaps within global research communication. For example, inequities arising from geography or gender. So AuthorAid supports early career researchers in low and middle income countries in communicating their research through mentoring, online courses in research writing and other skills, facilitated discussions, for example, through online journal clubs, and a range of open resources. We're always keeping an idea on new ways to respond to the challenges that are faced by researchers within this network, and helping Southern research to be more visible and play a part in tackling the many challenges facing the world today. Recognizing that many researchers are currently unable to get to their labs or do fieldwork, we've introduced some new online courses and tutorials over recent months to help with development of core skills, such as research writing and critical thinking. We have also been piloting a new online module attached to existing online courses to help researchers interact with policymakers more effectively. So, over the years, we've been pleased and grateful that some publishers have wanted to work with AuthorAid to provide more tailored support to their authors in low and middle income countries. And there are a range of simple ways that all publishers can get involved. The first one is a really simple one, and that is promote AuthorAid to your authors. If there's an author that seems to be struggling a bit with navigating some of the systems, tell them about AuthorAid, direct them to our website. The URL is at the bottom of this slide. Follow us on Twitter and encourage people to follow us on Twitter. It's just at AuthorAid. And share announcements about our latest online courses. The next one starts on the 8th of September. next research writing online course. It's also possible to sponsor author-aid online courses. Some organizations and publishers choose to have a dedicated classroom within a MOOC to provide more tailored support to their user group, their authors or their lab group, but also in doing so to help to ensure that our high quality courses remain available and free at the point of access to researchers across the globe. And then if there are senior authors, editors and others within your publisher, as part of your publisher, who might consider being a mentor, please tell them about this. Author-aid mentors connect with early career researchers and help provide them support and advice about the publishing landscape and about helping them to get their first papers published. I'm very happy to provide any more information about any of these things, and just some details about the next online research writing course. Thank you for listening, and please do ask if you have any questions.
Thank you, Shan, for sharing this information with us. I will now turn the presentation to Colleen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak today. I'm going to be talking about marketing technology and its role in helping us as scholarly publishers better understand and listen to our customers. I firmly believe that modern marketing has the skills and tools to help scholarly publishers navigate change, both the unprecedented change that we're all seeing with the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the needed change around such issues as racial justice, climate change, diversity. While marketing has always been powerful, marketing technology has transformed the marketing discipline. In 2011, there were 150 marketing technology tools, as documented on Scott Brinker's marketing technology landscape, which you see on the screen now. By 2020, there were over 8,000 tools. And these tools help marketers in a myriad of areas with new capabilities that could not have been imagined a few years ago. And it's transformed and changed marketing departments, the CMO role, marketing's engagement with digital, sales, product, and so on. But one particularly fertile area of marketing technology is around tools that help us better understand and listen to our customers. Marketing technology enables marketing to be the voice and advocate of the customer. And I believe during these challenging times and the needed change we all need to make, we need to turn to our customers, our audiences, to understand what they need, to listen to their innovation, to have them pave the way forward for us. This is the 2020 marketing technology landscape blown up. Marketing technology is organized in categories. They look like countries on a map, for example. And the stars denote the marketing technology categories that have tools and technologies that help support customer listening and understanding. And as you can see, it's incredibly pronounced. At the heart of marketing technology is customer. Many say marketing technology is truly customer technology. And it helps customers through all different types of data. And when you talk about customer data, sort of the first lens we always look through is what kind of data, what party data. So marketing technology helps us with first-party data. That's the data we own. We're collecting it, we're identity managing it, we're having it in our systems. It helps us with second-party data. That's someone else's first-party data, and we are partnering and exchanging it with trusted partners. And there's a lot of opportunity in publishing to be thinking about second-party data more strategically. Third-party data is where we buy aggregated data through data brokers. That's the kind of data that gets the most scrutiny and the kind of data that I believe is going to be less prominent in years to come. And then there's a new type of data called zero-party data. And while we've always been collecting zero-party data, it's just in the last year that it's become sort of the it topic in marketing. And what zero-party data is when customers explicitly share with us what they're interested in, where they'd like to receive information, what their preferences are. And in that way, when marketers ask customers for zero-party data, we're seeking permission to market to them. So it's incredibly data friendly, and that's why it's so popular. Marketing technology helps us collect, gather, synthesize, analyze 5 different types of customer data. The first is identity and preference. That's our names, our basic demographic information, but it's also that zero-party data I just spoke of. And we collect that zero-party data. We collect customers' expressed interest through preference centers, form fills, gated content, surveys, and other conversion strategies. And I would really emphasize conversion strategies. There's a whole category of marketing technology focused just on conversion. How do you get someone to fill out that form? How do you get someone to share information with you? Second category is transactional and relationship. That tends to be the kind of data we think about in our CRM, customer relationship management systems. It includes information about relationship. Is this person an author, a member, a purchaser, etc., as well as what they have purchased and how they have engaged with us. It also houses all of our marketing and sales communications. So for example, how many emails has this customer received in the last 6 months from us? And what were those emails? Behavioral data is increasingly important, a third type of data. This is where we monitor customers' digital footprint, their journeys through our products and sites and in our products and sites. We monitor engagement and interaction with products, websites, and marketing activity. Did somebody open an email? Did they click through? Did someone download a PDF? Did someone view a video? When they're on our sites, what keywords are they searching? How long are they on our sites? Where are they linking to and from? And when we talk about behavioral data, it's not just what we track, but a lot of marketing technology tools are helping us test. Let's present the customer with 2 different pieces of content, 2 different content marketing assets, for example. And let's see what resonates, and let's use that intelligence to sharpen and hone our marketing approach. When we talk about behavioral data, one of the biggest challenges we as scholarly publishers have is that the majority of the traffic that comes to our site is anonymous. And marketing technology helps with that too. It can assign user profiles to anonymous visitors and then continue to track and accrue their behavioral information in an anonymous fashion. It then can look across users and find shared attributes, and these shared attributes help spotlight patterns. And these patterns are incredibly useful in helping us understand what's trending and to which audience group is it trending. And you can keep it in marketing technology at this anonymous level if you wish. Marketing technology also can connect those anonymous users to their IP authentication or to their domain. And we as scholarly publishers do this all the time. That's counter-reporting is, when we can say this many visitors were from X university. And marketing technology can take it one step further, and it can help connect anonymous visitors with known customers. So I've been visiting a site for the last 6 months, and the system has been tracking my behavior, and they know that I'm interested in X, Y, Z. If one day I decide to register for an email newsletter, the system is smart enough to connect me, Colleen, with the anonymous profile I've made for the last 6 months. And that's how you start to develop that 360-degree view of the customer. All of this obviously requires customer permission and an understanding of data privacy. And and decisions about whether or not you want to keep it anonymous or no. But marketing technology provides a lot of flexibility for organizations to decide what's appropriate for them. The fourth kind of data is attitude and sentiment. This is where we're trying to understand what our customers think about us and what they think about the market and their ideas. And this is measuring customer satisfaction through market research. It's general market research as well. It's when you ask and engage with customers through advocacy and community. Increasingly, organizations are augmenting their structured market research with more informal, frequent conversations with advocate community customer groups. And it's also monitoring social media sentiment, or in fact, it can be monitoring sentiment in other places. Some organizations, for example, use natural language processing to mine customer service calls to infer sentiment. Gartner does an annual survey of CMOs, and their recent survey that just came out last month asked CMOs, what were the range of actions you took in response to the COVID-19 pandemic? Unsurprisingly, number one was that we as marketers launched special COVID-19 communications to customers. I think all scholarly publishers have done that and done that brilliantly well. But number two was they deployed listening tools to monitor customer COVID-19 sentiment or trends. And we're seeing across the board that COVID-19 is making organizations want to be closer to their customers. The last kind of data, number 5, is intent. And that's when we can spot intent signals. Things that customers are doing that indicate they're interested in something. We can get this data from our sites. We can also get this data from external sites. And marketing technology also has a lot of sophisticated analytical tools with AI capability to score and predict customer propensity or intention. So, as you can see, there's a lot in the marketing landscape that can help us understand and listen better to customers. I think of it like a ladder. Some organizations sit at top of that ladder with incredibly robust market research programs, advocacy programs. They have advanced customer data capability. They truly have that single customer view. But that's too over-engineered for all companies. And how you choose to deploy these tools really depends on your ambition, your business goals, and your scale. So I thought it might be helpful to share what some first rung capabilities, tooling, strategies might include. So I think the first is regular surveying. I think all organizations should commit to at least an annual survey, ideally more frequently than that. And I would suggest that we consider customer satisfaction metrics. I'm a big fan of CSAT, which measures customer satisfaction across various aspects of your program. I just think that's a really helpful way to understand if you're meeting your customers' needs. The second is think beyond formal research and create a customer community or an advocacy group. When you have one of these, you can do pulse surveys. You can be really agile. These are incredibly useful during COVID-19, where you can go to customers and ask them what would help. Ask them to brainstorm new approaches. If you want to test something, run it by them. I think these kind of programs, they can be informal, and then there are tools and technologies that scale them, are incredibly, incredibly powerful and helpful in navigating change. Monitor your social media conversations. Almost every single social media platform has the ability to do this. I think all organizations need some customer data solution. Customer data is incredibly complicated. CRMs are kind of your basic tool. They won't allow you to collect behavioral data or intent, and they don't really get into the sophisticated area of marketing customer data. However, they're a really good foundational piece. And I think organizations need to give some thought to what the right customer data solution is for them. They need aggregated web analytics. Google Analytics is the most popular, but there are obviously alternatives with IP recognition, really important for us as we have counter reports and other value-added analytics we need to give our library constituents. And lastly, I think prioritizing zero-party data collection needs to be a first-rung activity, i.e. it's now just hygiene. And thinking about the tools and strategies and content that you do to attract this kind of data is really important. The last point I want to make is that we need to remember diversity matters. You won't know what you don't know unless you listen to diverse voices. And we talk a lot about listening to the diverse populations in our employee base, and of course, making our employee base more diverse. And this is true for customers as well. When we're thinking about monitoring customer behavior and are asking, surveying, listening to customers, we need to make sure that diversity is at the heart of what we're doing. We need demographic diversity. We need to be looking at different career stages, different ages, different races, different genders, different countries within the world, different roles, because all of those different demographic groups are going to have different opinions and thoughts. And we also need diversity in our customers' relationships to us. First, we need to make sure we're capturing the different sort of roles they have, author versus purchaser versus journal visitor, etc. But we also have differences in how close customers are to us. Some have barely heard of our brands, but they're fervent targets we want, their audiences, and some are brand loyalists. And we need to make sure that our diversity reflects that as well. So I'm a firm believer that with the right marketing strategies, with the right marketing tooling, with an emphasis on listening and understanding from diverse customers, scholarly publishers can be inspired by a lot of new ideas. We can not only be responsive to our customer needs, we can help anticipate what they need from us. And I think that's incredibly important. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you. If I can provide any more questions or support, or you're interested in these slides, here's my contact information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Colleen. And thank you also to you all for your time and for your engaging presentations. I would like to forward my thanks to SSP for giving us the opportunity for this content to be part of the on-demand library. And I hope that you can attend the live broadcast of the session when we'll be available for question and answers. And this concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.